Welcome to PBCJ Presents, our weekly current affairs discussion program where we take a deep dive into matters affecting Jamaica land we love. I am Maya Chung. This week on PBCJ Presents, we take a look at Project STAR, which is seeking to raise social standards among Jamaicans using human capital development.
STAR is for all Jamaicans. As Keith will always say, it's a whole-away approach. We say, it's an all-away approach, same difference. It's a every Jamaican can get involved approach to community development and transformation. So our focus for today is reversing poor social outcomes in STAR communities, what the data reveal. So we're going to take a look at the broader context of Project STAR, the broader context within which Project STAR is seeking to play a role in solving some of the nation's social and economic challenges. It's the community members that are coming forward and taking ownership of the transformation for themselves, with STAR supporting with all of our other partners who are coming along as well. And then we have announced coming Jamaica's first social IPO, and much interest has been gathered around that for the last 4 days or so that we've announced that.
How did we get here? Jamaica has achieved a level of macroeconomic stability over the last 10, 12, 13 years. Hard fought, but we have achieved macroeconomic stability where our debt trajectory is falling to the lowest levels ever. Currently projected to fall to about 74% of GDP at the end of the year. But that was achieved through partnership. And that was achieved through the Economic Program Oversight Committee working in collaboration in a monitoring and oversight role with the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Jamaica and the government of Jamaica. What's important there is that we all came together as a people. Since then, we have seen the institutionalization of under macroeconomic stability with an independent central bank ensuring we can't print money, and an independent fiscal commission which has been rolled out at this point in time. So it has been institutionalized, macroeconomic stability. When I took over the presidency of the PSOJ, the focus was human capital development because we knew we had achieved macroeconomic stability, but we had a binding constraint in our labor markets. A skills gap, right? Because the private sector could not bring in the skills required from within the workforce to deliver greater productivity and greater growth. And we got derailed by COVID in our push. And the PSOJ has always enjoyed a healthy working relationship with the Jamaica Constabulary Force under the leadership of Major Anthony Anderson for the period of when I was gone as PSOJ president in 2019. The real push for a force for good was something that we resonated with, and the investments that would take place within the Jamaica Constabulary Force. And a critical component of that was building out their community strategy, building trust within communities. And we joined together with the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the Jamaica Defense Force, and we launched our PSOJ COVID-19 Response Fund in about April 2020 in partnership with the Council for Voluntary Social Services under the leadership of Safri Brown, our project director. And we were able to enter over 20, and the data and how we got there under the guidance of Dr. Paris Leo, Vice President of the PSOJ, who has been a driver for us in terms of evidence-based, data-driven, in terms of driving our strategies and our actions. And we were able to get into over 20 communities over a 4-month period, every 2 weeks in those communities. The JDF designed the logistics for us. very efficient. The kind of skill sets that are available within the JDF are tremendous. The Jamaica Constabulary Force, they delivered every single package. The entire police force came on board, including their community division, but they came on board and they went into the dark crevices and corners of the communities and delivered packages. We had our doubts, but Major General Anthony Anderson said, the police are going to be the ones that deliver and build those relationships. And it absolutely worked. And then there was another partnership which developed in Salt Spring in Montego Bay, where the business community in Montego Bay, under the leadership of John Biles, Ian Dare, etc., worked with the JCF and with a senior superintendent within that Fort St. James, and they worked together and they made interventions through working with schools, working and building out green spaces, etc., school feeding programs, supported homework programs, and they worked together in that community. And we saw a marked improvement in social cohesion and reduction in crime and violence in the community. So we said, that is almost, but it wasn't documented. And we said that was almost like our test case, and we know this can work because we know it worked in the PSOJ COVID-19 response fund in terms of partnership, and we saw that model in Salt Spring. So we recognize under human capital development you have two components, because if Jamaica is to move, we have to invest in our people. And education is critical to that, and this is something that we have advocated for very strongly. Because we see the outcomes, and we know that we need an investment in early childhood education. We need to close the skills gap based on where we are as a country. We also recognize that the root of crime and violence are social in nature, a lot of it. And therefore, community development to us was critical, a component of human capital development, socio-economic transformation of communities. But crime costs us 5% of GDP, over $100 billion a year. That's what crime costs us as a country. When we look at education, and this is from the Orlando Patterson report, 33% of our children are leaving primary school unable to read at a functional level, and 56% can't write, don't have the competence in writing. Of our labor force, 6.6% are 6.6%, the most recent data is unemployed. However, outside of the workforce, there are over 700,000 people between the ages of 15 and 65 that have not made themselves eligible for the workforce. Of that, over 200,000 are in school full-time or part-time, and if you take out those are looking after dependents, etc., etc., it comes down to around 500,000 people that have not made themselves eligible for the workforce for various reasons. One, they don't know how to access opportunities. Two, they don't think they're prepared. Three, there are many factors which drives why they don't feel included in society. They don't know how to access opportunities. They just don't know, because there's no real effective platform that connects the supply of labor with the demand for labor in Jamaica. There are platforms that are in place and people try, but it's just not happening the way it should happen. Now, we thought this is a real opportunity to close that gap. 62% of our workforce have no formal training or certification, and that's a real issue. That's a skills gap. Then when we look at micro and small businesses in Jamaica, and in the communities that Star will operate, there are thousands of micro and small businesses, but they're not necessarily formalized. But MSMEs, micro small businesses, account for over 70% of our labor force and 60% of GDP, of our gross domestic product. But only 10% of credit through deposit-taking institutions go to micro and small businesses because they're not formalized. They don't know how to access credit. They just don't know. And that is where the principle of inclusion, financial inclusion, comes into play. That means 60% of our economy is driven by micro and small businesses, but only 10% have access to finance. have access to finance. When we look at our housing, over 700,000, there are over 700 squatter communities in Jamaica, with this is where 540,000 of our people live, without proper infrastructure, sanitation, etc. Now, so this is national data, but when we look at the communities that even the Planning Institute of Jamaica have identified 100 communities as violent and vulnerable. So, and Paris will speak to this, but these communities, their averages or their data would show that they would be somewhat worse than the national average in most data points, I believe. And therefore, there needs to be a concentrated effort in targeting these communities. And a lot more of the crime and the gang violence happens within these communities. And if people don't know how to access jobs and opportunities and they remain unattached within the communities, that is a social outcome that drives also crime and violence, because they have to find it. If they can't earn it, they have to look it somewhere. So we know we have to work within a context of what is the government of Jamaica's strategy. The government of Jamaica has, from 2016-17, has put in a strategy called Plan Secure Jamaica with a number of pillars. One, legislation, and we have seen the Firearms Act, we have seen the Road Traffic Act, and we are now seeing the Bail Act being worked through. Legislation these are mainly crime, on the crime reduction side. We have seen the implementation of ZOSOs, which is supposed to be zones of special operations with clear hold and bill, the bill element being driven by the Jamaica Social Investment Fund for social investments in these communities. I think there are 7 ZOSOs, correct? And then there is the coordination of the effort between the ministries, departments, and agencies. Dr. Chang, under the chairmanship of Dr. Horace Chang, he has brought all of these agencies that have any mandate around social investments to come together and to be able to execute in a coordinated manner. Commendable. Now, there's also the Citizen Security Secretariat, which is supposed to be a monitoring and evaluation kind of, that has been put in place under the leadership of the former Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of National Security, Diane McIntosh, doing their best. Also, we have seen after the recommendations of, so therefore this is on the social investment, the crime prevention effort, and this is what's been occurring on that side. We have seen also on the Plan Secure Jamaica significant investments in the JCF and the JDF, technology, mobility, securing our borders. We have just seen the recent expo, impressive. All Jamaica was impressed. So we know we are moving in the right direction because technology is a force multiplier. So we know we are moving in the right direction. And therefore, and then there's correctional reforms and other pillars. But I think the work with the JCF, JDF have been, significant work has been done in building out the national security architecture. We have also seen, from an education perspective, the Education Transformation Oversight Committee being put in place. We're not hearing a whole lot, but Dr. Adrian Stokes, who is the chairman of that committee, in conversations, they have been working on their implementation plan, getting the team in place, the Chief Transformation Officer in place, to drive an implementation plan, because what they got from Dr. Patterson's Education Transformation Commission was recommendations. Now those need to be converted into a prioritized implementation plan. So we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to that because we have to address education because the outcomes are so poor, right? And I spoke a little earlier about the Planning Institute of Jamaica, and that they've identified over 100 communities vulnerable and volatile. Right? So we believe in partnership. We have seen partnership work at various levels. Achieving macroeconomic stability, working together with the JCF, that has been a partnership that has worked, and the JCF has committed themselves and works together in a real collaborative spirit and really drives the change. And they have created such an input in STAR Because, you know, we started off social transformation, and they said there is no social transformation unless you have economic opportunities on the other side. So we were extremely guided by the JCF on that. So we had to ensure that we bring that into the equation. And so we appreciate that input. So we believe a partnership, all of Jamaica, because all of us live in a place where we feel like there's a place of hopelessness. We were discussing it earlier. In a place of hopelessness, that can we impact the outcomes? How can we be a part of the change? Because we know Jamaica excels in pockets and does well in pockets. And we know that Jamaicans are leaders and massively talented. So how can we pull it all together in a whole-way approach to Jamaica that we can take on these poor social outcomes and make a real difference in driving change for Jamaica? Because we want all of our people, all our communities to thrive. Because many of our citizens live in these communities and they have to find a way every day, and they develop some resourceful thinking skills. Sometimes they go down the wrong road, but what they're trying to do is to survive. Some of them become professionals at it. Others are, they come under significant pressure to provide for their families. So we need to ensure that this potential is unearthed in our people within these communities. So we have to work with the community. STAR has to be community-owned. STAR has to be led by the community, led by community organizations, led by individuals in the communities, working in collaboration with all the partners. There are resources that are available within the government of Jamaica, within the ministries, departments, and agencies that need to be unlocked for the benefit of the people. So we have to work along with the government of Jamaica. We have to work along with the JCF, because they are the last person standing in the community from the public service is the Jamaica Constabulary Force. When everybody gone home, it's the police that are left in those communities. Okay? So this is a significant partnership with the JCF, but we have to work along with partners like the Social Development Commission, HEART, for skills training and other programs, the Planning Institute of Jamaica, because they have built out a community renewal model and a community renewal index. We need to align our efforts. The Jamaica Social Investment Fund, which as the name implies, social investment, we need to work along with them. And we need to work along with the Citizen Security Secretariat, right? Because we need to be able to coordinate efforts. We are continuing to build out relationships with the Ministry of Education and Youth, because they have many programs that should be impacting communities that are not necessarily getting to the beneficiaries or in a targeted way. Ministry of Health and Wellness, Public Health, when you walk in these communities, the NCDs and diabetes and hypertension, and it's just crazy what's occurring. But yet, we have a National Health Fund card and many don't know that they can access this benefit, right? And National Health Fund has done a good job, but we need to now get it into the communities where citizens can go and fill them prescription, right? Through MEGJC, working along with them because they're job creation. So we need to partner with them also, and they also have social protection resources available. Ministry of Industry and Commerce, because we want to work along with the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, because we want to impact micro small businesses. So we need to work along with the Ministry of Industry and Commerce. So these are relationships that are being actively built out. The good thing about STAR is that we are a 5-year program. We're 1 year in, right? 7 months into the first community. And we have time to build and develop these programs, and we're committed to this for the next 4 years, right? We're in 3 communities at this present time: East Downtown Kingston, Rose Gardens, Parade Gardens, Savlamar, and now Enter in Maypen. We've been in East Downtown Kingston for 7 months, Sav for 3 months, and Maypen we're at the entry point, building trust with the stakeholders within Maypen at this point in time. So we believe that if we work in partnership with the government of Jamaica, with the Jamaica Constabulary Force, with the Jamaica Defense Force, because we're going to partner with them also, because they have the HOPE program. We believe that we can make a real impact, and we can build out a community development model in partnership owned by the community to make a real difference for Jamaica.
And we go to a break at this time. You're watching PBCJ Presents. I am Maya Chung. We have much more when we return.
Immerse yourself in the elegance and charm of the Courtly Hotel and Suites. Enjoy our jerk barbecue night by the poolside each Wednesday, or celebrate your special events for your wedding, anniversary, birthday, or just a relaxing weekend getaway. Unique, personalized, inviting. The Courtly Hotel and Suites.
Welcome back, and thanks for staying with us. You're watching PBCJ Presents. I'm Maya Chung. Our topic this week is Project STAR.
We have over 52 key performance indicators for change that we'll be monitoring over time, right? And I'll just name a few. Social, the thematic area, social cohesion and inclusion. KPIs would be number of persons accessing STAR programs, parenting support, school-based support, sports programs, psychosocial support, referrals to services of the government of Jamaica, whether it be PATH programs, whether it be health, National Health Fund benefits, social pensions. These are all benefits that are available that have not necessarily, as I've said before, reaching the people in the communities. Right, so we want to impact 30% of the community, 1,950 persons per community, right? And that's 19,500 across the 10 communities. And what outcomes we expect? Strengthen families through improved parenting, increased school attendance rates, a reduction in interpersonal conflicts. Local economic development, so that's on the social side, and then on the economic development side, which is critical, number of community members trained and certified and or employed. Certification, job readiness, and getting, as we say, working on the unskilled and moving them to a skilled place, right? Also, we want to impact 20% of the workforce population in these communities, trained and certified, and are employed or made employable, right? Outcomes we expect include reduction in the unemployment rate, building of the human capital development, increased family household income, reduce reliance on state support, economic independence for our people, right? Entrepreneurial, we have to bring our micro, small businesses and budding entrepreneurs, because there are so many entrepreneurial-minded people within these, within the STAR communities. And what we would like to do is help them along the way so that they can formalize their businesses, they can learn good business practices, so we'll work with mentors, we'll work with the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, we work with other partners, the banking community, the credit unions, right, to ensure that we're delivering microfinance, to ensure that we're delivering services within the community so that they can grow their business and even create jobs from the micro and small businesses within these communities, right? Very important. So increasing economic activity within the communities, right? By one, people getting jobs outside of the community and inside the community, and micro, small entrepreneurs growing their businesses in the communities. So, but this can't be done unless the community is engaged. So another thematic area is community-led action partnership for development. So the number of communities engaged entered, right? Number of residents involved, consulted in the community process. Number of institutional organizations, stakeholders involved in project delivery services. So we know where we are at this point in time. STAR will enter 10 communities. The minimum number of 10% of residents involved, consulted with in the community building planning process, right? and 150 partners that are engaged across STAR communities, national and at the local level, right? So outcomes we expect, that becomes a whole way approach. People feel included in this exercise. They own it. When they own it, they don't see us as coming in, they are part of the process. It's a whole way process, everybody coming together to solve and to put solutions on the table and to execute the solutions. Because we know in Jamaica we have an implementation deficit, right? And this is where we are. We're bringing the private sector skill sets to bear to ensure that these programs are executed and we are monitored and evaluated and we are having the impact that we should have, right? So at the end of the day, what we have is stronger, more socially and economically viable communities, right? So during the life, so if we do all of this effort on the social side and the economic side in terms of social and economic transformation and mindset change in that place where people are coming from a place of hopelessness to one where they see that there are possibilities to manifest their own greatness, right? Then we can see that should reduce over time, and we have put a target in here in partnership with the JCF to see reductions in major crimes of 40% in targeted communities over the life of the program. Okay? So that will be through economic transformation, social transformation, which I discussed earlier, and that in terms of driving greater social cohesion and through social programs, economic programs to drive this activity. And we believe this will lead to safe, sustainable communities able to support national development goals.
The JCF very involved in Operation STAR. It's one part of our overall intervention strategy, and there are some natural synergies between what we are doing and getting done and the whole arrangements with the STAR program. I don't think there is a police force anywhere that doesn't understand clearly the nexus between social conditions and good policing outcomes. And for the JCF, probably even more so, because we have been working, the type of communities sometimes that we work in are very difficult and challenged in many ways. And over time, the JCF has seen as part of its mandate to reach out and engage communities in a number of ways. So the journey to STAR, and Keith spoke about it, but the journey to STAR, actually it's interesting that in creating policing plans, and I'm talking about the JCF journey now, where every police division is required in their policing plans to not only deal with intelligence, investigations, operations, the things that people would expect would be in a policing plan, but also intervention. Now, the intervention component of that, when these plans were created, was as a direct response to what we have seen for a long time as a need in communities and our outreach, but putting it in a structured plan with KPIs and outcomes. As a result of that planning, one of the activities in St. James, and Keith mentioned St. James, was to take a community that was particularly difficult and over time, the very poor relations between the police and the community and so on, very highly violent community, and take that on as part of the intervention strategy there. So the commander got on board with that and started that process of intervention through schools, through the community, and doing work together with the community. Now, and here's where the benefit of partnership comes in. So we have reach, we're a big organization, and we have information about what is happening in a space, and to an extent we can intervene. When we get on board partners who have funds and means, and that combines with what we do and our direction, sometimes our leadership in these projects or activities, then you start to get a synergy out of it that exceeds what either of us could do by ourselves. And I think that synergy and the impact it had, which was significant, created, as I say, what we call the Salt Spring model, where private sector and the police can work together to create better outcomes for communities, to build bridges between the police and communities, to build relationships between the business sector and the police and the community. And we saw all sorts of things happen. Businesses, interestingly enough, that had previously been targeted, that stopped happening. So it was because you now have persons, the community came together. When I say the community, I mean the police, the business community, the community, residents and citizens who live in the space. And it's hard when somebody is invested in you and you're invested in them to go back and do harm. And so you saw the impact of it over time. And then COVID. And then COVID. So what did COVID provide for us? For the JCF, it provided a number of roles in addition to all the other roles we had. That's what it created for us. But I think more importantly, and that's the point I want to make, it provided opportunity. It provided all of us an opportunity to build some bridges that it was not that clear how we were going to do it, and do it quickly. But COVID brought needs, and some of those needs in an environment where everyone is impacted by a circumstance. It allowed us to step out and engage in a way that was not available to us before COVID. And I just mentioned two things. I've mentioned them before. One is that working in the same, the Salt Spring model is a springboard to get an intervention, and Keith spoke about that, to get an intervention all over the place in the parts, I say the nooks and crannies, to the vulnerable people who really have nobody to look after them. And also you're in a situation where schools were shut. Kids were at home. And we know that our internet penetration is limited. And so you are in danger of kids being away from the school system and learning for 2 years. We saw ourselves as having a role in that. And so not only did we deliver packages, we delivered homework to people and back to the schools. Now, I don't know whether the children like that we were carrying homework for them, but the point of the matter is we could, throughout the hills of St. James, impact 250 households in this way. And it was interesting because the persons who were doing it were our quick response team, who normally are our immediate response people to violence and crime. So guys turn up to houses to just either deliver packages or homework to youngsters who see these guys turn up in their body armor and all of their gear to do something good for you. That's a different opportunity. That's a different thing. And I don't know how we would have done that really outside of COVID. So here you have crisis, and every crisis brings an opportunity with it. So there are discussions, and reasonably so, that, we have been a country facing crisis for a while, different types of crises, but some of the things that Keith spoke about. This is the opportunity from that. And so with that crisis, and the good thing about this opportunity, it's an opportunity that we all can participate in. That doesn't come along every day. But one thing for sure is the greater participation, not just by individuals, but by organizations and persons who are well-meaning, with common understanding. The greater that is the better the outcomes will be. There's no question about it, in my mind. And so it's based on all of that why we are so committed to this. We have seen what has happened in our zones of special operations and so on, the reductions we can get there, but the sustainability of any intervention that we do lies in creating the environment in which the social change, the long-term change can take place. So we recognize that. So as a force, and whereas we are unrelenting in terms of our responses to crime and violent people, and we will continue to do that, we recognize, and our members recognize, both individually and collectively, that investment in communities, intervention in people's lives in a positive way will bring better results, better outcomes. We have just by way of that, and it's important because we have a lot of our members who do projects on their own, not even through the force, they just have their own projects. We just had an inspector get recognized, Inspector Brown get recognized in the Caribbean for the top community award at the ACCP conference. We just had our members go as head of delegation with the Special Olympics delegation, 65 people going to the Special Olympics. The JCF is that body that supports the Special Olympics in a way that nobody else does. We have our partners coming on board now to do that even in a larger way. So this is a vulnerable group that is now, through our work and others and partners, every one of these things that we're doing, we're talking about, even though JCF does it, we have partners at it, have allowed us to influence and affect communities. As one of the certainly, if not the largest, one of the largest contributors to United Way. Those projects, those agricultural projects, these things are really because our members have chosen, the same police officers have chosen to take money out of their pay to influence these things over time. So the ethos of all this matches perfectly with what we do and the way we see ourselves individually and as an organization. We will still be out there doing our police youth clubs, our neighborhood watches, our beach watches and all of that. Our domestic violence centers will keep on going. And just as a point, not to take away from any of this, what we have seen now is a 35% reporting in those centers is from men. What that means is that we have created a safe space in which anyone can go to and make those reports. But today is a day about STAR, and I'm just updating on why the JCF sees it as an important thing and why we will be committed over the same period that STAR will be running, the next 4 years, 5 years in total. We will be absolutely committed to those outcomes and those communities because we're there anyway, and this can only redound to the better or the improvement, betterment or improvement of our citizens, and that's what we're all about.
And that's our show for this week. Thank you for watching. I've been your host, Maya Chung. The topic has been Project Star. Remember to follow us on all our socials at PBCJamaica. Email your feedback to pbcjpresents@pbcjamaica.org. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more great programming on this station.
This is a transformative moment. Never before have we seen a situation where all of Jamaica can own a part of transforming the future of our country. And I don't believe that there's been a time before where we're all as aligned that this must be done. We're seeing hopelessness as a normal part of everybody's belief. And that hopelessness is something we need to break the back of. Again, that is also a self-fulfilling mindset. As a stock exchange chair, I'm extremely proud that we put in place the Jamaica Social Stock Exchange. I'm extremely proud that the management and team led by Marley Street Forest would have seen it fit to support the initiative and put in place the infrastructure to make a social IPO possible. And extremely proud as well that the broker-dealer community would have seen it fit to sign up, to come on board, and to commit to exposing their clients, their investors, the opportunity to own a part of social change as a part of their portfolio of investment, recognizing full well that every investor is investing for a better tomorrow, and a part of your portfolio should be a share in Project Star.